Thomas Ella again here for Small Business Digest. We're going to talk about something we very seldom talk about, yet it's very important. And we have Tara Storch here to tell us all about it. Tara, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me so much.
Well, Tara, tell us first a little bit about your personal background and what led you to this, what I consider one of the most interesting and important things I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, my story on how Taylor's Gift Foundation even came to be really came from a place of pain for our family. Um, I had been married to my college sweetheart for 28 years. We met at Texas A&M on campus, and have three beautiful children: Taylor, Ryan, and Peyton. And it was the spring break of 2010 that we were on our spring break vacation in Beaver Creek, Colorado, having a wonderful, wonderful time. And it was the very last run of our first day that our oldest child, Taylor, 13 at the time, her and my husband and my son wanted to make one last run before the slopes closed. And my daughter Peyton and I were tired, and I went down to the bottom of the mountain to get her some hot chocolate and wait. And it was on that last run that Taylor just started going a little too fast and skid off into the trees and hit a tree. And it was from that accident that we were thrown into the most horrific um, time for our family. And Taylor was care flighted to Grand Junction, Colorado, because the weather in Denver was awful. And when we got to the hospital and we were talking with the staff, um, we realized what we were facing was much more than just a recovery. It was something extremely serious, and it was very difficult to kind of, as a parent, go there in your head. And when we kind of knew what we were facing, that there is a most likely, and actually very positively, that Taylor was not going to survive, we had a nurse approach us when we learned that, you know, um, she was not going to recover, and approached us and said, Taylor's a beautiful candidate for organ donation, and would you consider it? And at that time, honestly, we had never talked about organ donation in our family, not even once. I mean, I think I checked the box when I, you know, renewed my license or got my license, but it was never a conversation in our family, especially with our children, right? And I'll never forget that. My brother is a doctor, and he was standing with us and, was confirming everything the doctors were saying, that that Taylor was gone. And when we were asked that question, I remember my husband was standing right by Taylor's bedside, and we both just looked at each other and said, yes. And the reason we said yes to that is because of the type of child Taylor was. She was so giving and a friend to all. And we knew deep down in our hearts, if Taylor would have been asked that question, she would have absolutely said yes. And out of all the decisions we were making at the hospital, that was the easiest one. And that one word, yes, sparked a whole different path for us that we just didn't even know what was coming. And Taylor went on to save and improve the lives of 5 people with the gift of her heart, both kidneys, her liver, her pancreas, and her cornea. And through that, organ donation became the good that came out of this family tragedy of ours. I remember my husband sitting in the backyard with me after we got home, and life was starting in a completely different path with now just 2 children. And he said, I have this distinct memory of my grandfather just instilling in me this phrase of, it's not what happens to you that matters, it's how you react to it that does. And we were sitting in the backyard together. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I mean, of course it mattered that we lost Taylor. It completely shattered our family. but we knew our reaction was going to be really important, not only to our community, our family, but especially our other two children. And so we had a choice. We were either going to cave up in the grief, which was very easy to do, or we were going to find the good. And organ donation was the good that came out of this. So, my husband started looking into organ donation, and because this was new for us, it was new language for us. We didn't, you know, what what can come of this. And um, since it was so new, we started doing some research, and my husband realized that there was something really important that we could do to get the word out, especially not just in our state, but possibly elsewhere. And so Taylor's Gift Foundation was started to bring awareness to the importance of organ donation. And we were very blessed to be able to meet with 4 out of her 5 recipients. And the first recipient we met was her heart recipient. And when we connected with Patricia, her heart recipient, that story hit Good Morning America and really launched Taylor's Gift Foundation more to a national level, because people were very touched by the story. And I can send you that link so you can, let your viewers know and listeners know how to find it. But through that story, really opened up a lot of doors for us, in the sense that it gave us a platform, in the sense to talk about the importance of organ donation. And so, because we knew it was such a hard topic, we knew we had to have some sort of way to discuss it, other than, you know, sitting around with your family and friends and asking, do you want to be an organ donor? Because when you're asked that question, immediately people think of death, right? But organ donation is 100% about life. That's what it's about. So we coined this phrase, outlive yourself, right? So meaning, how do you want to leave a lasting difference in the lives of others? And so it's easy to sit around with your friends and family and ask, how do you want to outlive yourself? For our family, organ donation is a beautiful way to outlive yourself. And it's a great way to start that conversation, because it's a very important conversation to have with your family. It is to let them know your wishes, right? And to register to be an organ donor in your state. And you can do that easily at registerme.org. Within 90 seconds, you can be an organ donor, a registered organ donor. And so along the way, we knew that since it was kind of a hard topic to talk about, that we needed, not only outlive yourself, but we needed some really good partners to help join us in this message. And so we were very blessed to have OPI nail polish created a Taylor blue color for the foundation. And that color just kind of launched a conversation piece. And so, for example, I know you've heard maybe of Movember. It's the organization that guys grow beards and mustaches around November, because it's their way to talk about a hard topic of prostate cancer and men's health and things like that. So that's how they start the conversation. Well, we knew we needed that kind of bit. So that's when OPI created that Taylor blue color. And then most recently, we had Nike join us, and they created Outlive Yourself socks. And it is just the most incredible thing with Nike. On these socks is a beautiful color blue, which reflects the color of Taylor's eyes. And there were 5 stripes. There are 5 stripes on the socks that represent the 5 lives she saved. So it's been beautiful to be able to have these incredible partners join us on our mission. And along the way, not only did we want to share the importance of organ donation, we really wanted to help families like ours. Our families are called donor families, meaning that someone in our family passed away and was able to give the gift of life through organ donation. And so I'm a donor mom. We have, my husband's a donor father. We're a donor family. And we noticed that there was very little kind of emotional support resources for the donor side. And honestly, without the donor side, there is no gift of life, right? There has to be that yes from the donor family. And we just found out that there were not a lot of emotional resources to help these families in the emotional struggle, because Organ donation for a donor family is a kind of a complicated grief. It's different in the sense that organ donation comes out of a sudden loss. It usually comes out of an accident or a tragedy or something like that. It's not someone's been sick for a long time and it's expected. It usually is a sudden loss. And so it's that horrific, heavy grief of a sudden loss mixed with the gratefulness that your loved ones saved lives. So, I mean, that's kind of what organ donation is to a donor family. It is the combination of grief and gratefulness that kind of share the same space. So, we knew that we wanted to help families who are a donor family and help them in their grief journey. And so through that, Taylor's Gift Foundation, we launched a new mission recently called our Kindred Hearts program. And our new mission is to emotionally support organ donor families in need. And we're doing this through our new program called the Kindred Hearts program. And do you have any questions for me at this point? I know I've talked so much.
You were talking so beautifully. I don't know if you realize it, but tears came to my eyes. Uh, 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 First off, Tara, your websites. That's most important. Please give
Yes,
our audience the websites.
it is taylorsgift.org. Taylorsgift.org. And on there you can
Will you spell it out for our audience, please?
TAYLORSGIFT. So it's like Taylor's gift, like a present, a gift,
Mhm.
.org.
Okay.
And on there, you can find everything about who we are, what we do, and specifically our Kindred Hearts program. So if you give me a second, I'll kind of share what that is and how we're able to help donor families. So um, we want to help the Kindred Hearts program really is twofold. It is consists of support groups led by trained volunteers and facilitators. And then we have our caring guides. Our caring guides give families individual dedicated support for an entire year. And all of these services, the support groups and our caring guides, are no cost to the donor family. Taylor's Gift is providing this service for them.
Wow.
And these donor families are very precious to us. They made the ultimate gift by saying yes. And we all know that, gosh, if you had dedicated family support for an entire year, how much that could cost. And so we are just totally really alleviating that pressure of any sort of financial burden for these families to get any sort of emotional help. So, we will have the way families find us. You can go to our website and click on Kindred Hearts program, and it's 3 easy steps for a donor family to reach us. You just fill out a name, email, phone number. That's it. And within 24 hours, we'll have a licensed psychologist or licensed counselor reach out to you to talk to you and provide details about their services. And you will be able to choose support groups or a caring guide or both, whatever you feel like is best for your family. And our goal is just to walk with you through this journey because we've been there. As a donor mom, I fully understand what it's like to be on this side of organ donation. And I think it's very, very important to have dedicated resources for donor families given by those who really get it, right? For example, when everything happened with our family, we didn't have any sort of emotional support resources available. And the only way that I found a grief counselor was because my brother knew someone who knew someone, right? And at first, I wasn't going to go at all. But then I learned that this counselor had lost a child. And so I knew that they'd be able to say things to me, that this counselor would be able to say things to me that probably many people couldn't because she had walked in these shoes, right? So all of our support group facilitators and our caring guides who give the individual support all have had personal experience with grief. And I think that's very important because, if you haven't walked it, can you really, really um, understand? You want to understand, but it's hard for you if you really haven't walked in that path. And so, that is definitely something that is kind of a prerequisite for anyone that wants to volunteer in these roles is they've had personal experience in grief. And I have to say that helping others truly does help your grief journey, your personal grief journey, because there's something about being able to be that hope for somebody that helps you too, right? Because grief never goes away. It's been 10 years since we've lost Taylor, and it never ever goes away. But you learn how the sting of grief lessens, but it's always there, always there. It's not something you get over. It's not something and honestly, it's not something you want to get over because because you loved so big, that person is with you all the time and you want to talk about that person and you know, have that person always with you in some capacity. And so, for us to be able to walk with these families who've experienced this kind of grief journey is just so important to us. And, we've been very excited about kind of what's to come. The caring guides are being provided by Heritage Cares, and who is a incredible company about behavioral health. And every one of our caring guides and our support group facilitators all report to a licensed therapist and counselor. It is, with meetings every week talking about the best way to help these families. So it's not just like volunteers that we just train and let go. These are truly trained volunteers who report to a licensed therapist because we think that's very, very important. The caring guides are provided, like I said, through Heritage Cares. It's an incredible behavioral health company who have partnered with us. And when we started talking about and kicking off this Kindred Hearts program, we were very blessed that it caught the attention of Johns Hopkins. And Johns Hopkins really was excited about our Kindred Hearts program because there's really very few resources dedicated to donor families throughout the nation, emotional resources dedicated to these families. So Johns Hopkins has partnered with us because they want to do a pilot program and a research study about the Kindred Hearts program because they see the need for it and the incredible impact it can make across the nation for these families. So, we're just kicking off this mission, and we have got many lots of interest and excitement. And the only way we can do this is through support, through volunteers who want to step up and be part of the support groups and learn how to be a facilitator, for volunteers who want to step up and say, I want to commit myself to a family, I want to walk with a family through this because I get it. And then we need financial support to continue the program. So there's lots of ways for people to get involved, and just sharing about Taylor's gift and what we're doing is also extremely important. So
I'm going to interrupt you. You are a wonderful spokesman for it. I'm going to interrupt you for two things. Give us the website again where people can do it. Can go?
Yeah, go to taylorsgift.org. And at the top, you'll see how to get involved. You'll learn about our Kindred Hearts program. It's very user-friendly. Everything's right there for you at taylorsgift.org.
Okay, now a tough question. Do you have a picture of Taylor?
I do.
Can you show it to us?
Sure.
Mhm.
Give me 1 second. I
Yes,
have
please.
one right here. Hang on. I hope you can see that.
Okay. Everybody in this audience will want to see that picture. Okay, because Uh, so,
That's
you know, you are probably one of the best spokesmen we've ever seen for something like this. So, um, we're almost at the end. I almost don't. Uh, has it strengthened your marriage with your husband?
yeah, it really has. I think that, when we get that question a lot because a lot of marriages don't survive a
Yes.
law like this, right? And so, um, when it first happened to us, it was very hard because we were both grieving very differently. He was wanting to be around Taylor's friends that brought him so much joy. He was, really pouring himself into the good of organ donation and how, he can make a difference with that. And that's how Taylor's Gift Foundation got started because my husband saw that and really took off with that. And I give him all the credit for starting the foundation 10 years ago because without his vision, it would not be where it is today. And his guidance, he's just so smart. Um, anyway, so my way I grieved, honestly, is I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't function. And so we were grieving very differently. And it was hard because he couldn't understand the way I was grieving and I couldn't understand the way he was. And then we met with a friend, a couple of well, now they're friends, but we really didn't know them back then. And they were the only couple that we ever knew that had lost a child. And we sat down with them and they said something so simple to us that changed everything. They said, you have to give each other the grace to grieve the way they need to. And so that was like a light bulb moment. It's like, why aren't we doing that? Why am I not letting him do what he needs to do? And why is he not letting? And so it's like that all of a sudden that just kind of released everything and made us realize we've got to give each other grace on this because it is different for both of us because everybody grieves differently. Her siblings grieve differently. And so it's it once you just kind of open the door of just giving each other the grace because honestly you can't be fixed, right? I mean, the Tara I was March 14th, 2010
Mm,
is completely different than March 15th, 2010. I mean, your DNA changes after a loss like that.
very definitely. What does your husband do when he's not with the foundation?
Well, he ran the foundation for 3 solid years, and he is revenue officer. Excuse me, chief revenue officer for Fitzgerald Media.
Mm,
So he got the foundation off the ground and poured himself night and day into it for 3 solid years. And then we hired an executive director,
mm,
and from there took off. You know,
okay.
he got up to an incredible point, and then we got executive director, so he could just kind of be the vision. You know, and now
Okay.
I'm running it. Now I'm president and running it. So and it's awesome.
Mhm,
It's given me such incredible purpose.
mm.
Incredible.
Did you ever think of having another child?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. We thought about that. Um, and you know what? We not only thought about it, we prayed about it a ton. And, I think that question's tricky because I never, ever, ever would want another child to ever like take Taylor's place, right? And that's not something that would ever happen. But we did talk about it. We talked about adopting. We talked about all sorts of things and like that on because you feel your family is now completely different, right?
Mm,
You walk to a restaurant now, you're not asking for I need five. Now you're asking for four.
mm,
And that it's things like that are very difficult. It's when people who don't know you have small conversations that say, well, tell me about you know how many kids you have and being able to answer that question. I mean, and I have to say that, so to answer your question, yes, we did think about it, but it's not something that became something that we focused on. We had two other children that truly needed our attention and our love and our dedication. And that's where we needed to spend our time with our children, because they were going through just as heavy grief as we were in a different way, right?
Hmm.
So that's where our focus was and should have been and was. So that is,
And they have managed to survive it, obviously. I,
they
did you
are,
give them counseling?
here's the thing is that we tried. I mean, Todd and I were having really good conversations with our grief counselor, and we wanted them to have counseling. And so we tried, and I think it was the third counselor that we went to that finally the counselor sat down, my husband and I, and said, "You can't force someone to talk. They'll talk when they're ready. And it may not be until their 20s, they may not be till their 30s, right? But you can't force it because it's working for you." So we became, the place where they leaned on, and which was great. And so they have turned into incredible adults. And I think because of their experience, they are more empathetic, more compassionate, more faithful, more just have a different perspective of life. Our son is just incredible. Our daughter is in nursing school right now, and she wants to be a nurse, and she's going to be a phenomenal one. And I think that their experience is really affected them in so many different ways, right? Um, and we've just kind of loved them through it all. I think that as a parent, you really just try to make things as normal as possible for your kids when they're going through something like this. And it's hard because your life is no longer normal, and they sense that and they know that too. So really, we just loved them. I mean, every emotional phase they've been in, we've just loved them where they were. We didn't try to fix, we didn't try to, force counseling. We just loved them where they were, and knowing that they had the confidence that mom and dad are there for them at all times. And we are, and we were, for sure.
Tara Storch, one more time, your website and how people can reach you.
Yeah, taylorsgift.org. And you can, go down on the bottom and hit contact us, and someone will, if you want to talk to me, you can reach out to me. That's not hard at all. So would love your listeners' support and be able to, help us emotionally support these donor families.
I have
Um,
to tell you, Tara, we've gone over, but who cares? It was one of my best interviews in years. Thank
oh,
you so much.
well, thank you for asking me and
Mm.
helping get the word out, just about the importance of this and our foundation.
Okay. On that note, we say have a good, prosperous year.